Hey, Packer fans. Welcome into the Pack-A-Day YouTube channel. Thank you so much for joining us on a beautiful, beautiful day for Packer football. We are not Andy Herman, clearly. I am Dan Kotnik. Joined with me, as always, is one of my usual running partners
Yeah.
in Camille Davis. You can catch her and myself with Monty Moore on the Monday Pack-A-Day audio side of things, and then all three of us as well over on Cheesehead TV each week getting you ready for games. So, Camille, you and I have already broken this game down from multiple angles over on the Cheesehead TV side, but getting away from the X's and O's
Mhm.
and the players and who's coming in, who's not gonna play, and how much can Joe Flacco do against the Packers at Lambeau this week? Just your overall feelings coming into today. We are like 4 hours away now. Four and a half hours away from kickoff. What's your overall vibe so far right now?
This is one of those games where going in and you look at all the X's and O's, you look at the matchups, and you feel like the Packers should win this game handedly. That's how it feels. But there's that little feeling of you inside too. It's kind of like it should go this way. But if certain things don't go the way the Packers need them to go, like if the offensive line isn't blocking the way they need to be, given the fact that, there's some questionable guys right now, injury wise, on the Packers offensive line, if that doesn't go well, it can go bad. If Joe Flacco has time, it could go bad. If special teams looks like it has for the last couple of weeks for the Packers, it could go bad. So there's those aspects of like, hey, if they don't play a clean game, they can get beat. But everything else that you're looking at outside of maybe the Bengals wide receivers up against the Packers cornerbacks, and then maybe their special team unit as a whole against the Packers special team unit, like every other matchup, I feel really good that the Packers have an advantage in. But you know how it goes, Dan. It could be any given Sunday. Things can go awry really quickly. How are you feeling going into this one?
Here, like Brett says, lots of uncertainty today.
Yep.
I like to say that I live my life as a Packer fan in a state of cautious optimism, where it's like I think exactly what you're kind of explaining is like we're feeling good, we're feeling positive about how the Packers stack up against the Bengals. And really, I would say like every single week, I go in feeling really good about how the Packers stack up against everybody.
Same.
But it's kind of like that, like you're like that little deer that's like creeping into the clearing, and you're like your head on a swivel. Like, is something gonna happen? Like, is the other shoe gonna fall? Like, can I come in here and be comfortable? It never feels like I can with this
Yeah.
team,
Yeah.
because like Brett
Exactly.
says, like lots of uncertainty around everything today. Like, I think you kind of highlighted it by saying everything's good. Special teams is like really the big matchup. If you're going into an NFL game and you're like that worried about
Yeah.
the special teams matchup, that's a red flag for me.
I think that says more about just how the Packers special teams unit has been performing more than anything else. Like, so you have a comment here from T Tizzle as well saying, I swear
Yeah.
if Flacco comes in here and beats us on 1 week notice after beating us 3 weeks ago, I'm going to lose it. And they're laughing about it, of course. But like, I think that's also really real of like, man, we're all expecting a Packers victory because, again, if you look at how everything stacks up, the Packers should come out on top. But if it does not shake that way, I think the crash out levels for Packer Nation are going to be high because, again, this is a Packers team that has Super Bowl expectations at this point, especially how they started the first 2 weeks of the season off. You know what they can do when they're clicking on all cylinders here, and you see the potential of the units. So it's one of those things where it's like, this is a Bengals team that's been struggling. And I do mean struggling. Like, they've lost 3 straight after a 2-0 start, and Joe Burrow played in 1.5 of those first 2 games that they won. So it's like Jake Browning wasn't good. Now they bring Joe Flacco in, who, for all of Browning's faults, one thing about Jake Browning in comparison to Joe Flacco is that he's a bit more mobile. So now you're putting Joe Flacco behind an offensive line that was even worse than the one that he was behind in Cleveland. So like theoretically pass rush should eat, but also he has better weapons to pass to than he had in Cleveland. So it's one of those things where it's like, dang, it should go the Packers' way. It should, but you have to always account for what else could happen.
Yeah, I share T Tizzle's sentiments exactly right. Like exactly the same. If we lose to Joe, and it's not just losing to Joe Flacco twice in 3 weeks. It's losing to Joe Flacco playing behind two of the worst offenses in the league.
Yeah.
Like this isn't as if Joe Flacco suddenly got, like, let's say Jalen Hurts got hurt right before the Monday night game. And they're like, well, we need a backup. We need somebody. And they bring in Joe Flacco. And it's like, okay, like if you lose to Joe Flacco and the Eagles, who have Saquon Barkley
Right.
and tons of weapons around him and an actual offensive line and a somewhat competent defense. Okay. This is losing to, statistically, a quarterback that would be behind the two bottom worst offensive lines in the entire NFL. And the Browns had no offensive weaponry whatsoever. The Bengals at least have something, but still a terrible offensive line. This just can't happen. I think we're all a little on edge from that.
A little bit. Haven't won in a couple weeks here, lost in the time.
See, that's the problem too, is that the taste of the loss and the tie back to back, 2 games that should have been wins, has just been sitting in our mouth for 3 weeks now.
Yep.
Like, and then you turn around and your first game back is Joe Flacco again, the guy that just beat you 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Real quick, just some other people here in the chat want to shout out. We saw Dawn in there. Dawn, welcome, happy Packers Day and victory, and yes, Victory Monday, Victory Sunday. We're going into we'll have a Victory Monday. Yes. For the Brew Crew. So shout out again to the Brewers, especially as a Tigers fan. I'm now solely on the Brew Crew train.
As you should be.
Right? Exactly. True North here. Yeah. Talking about until they can win consistently off the bye week, be scared. Yeah. There's the other thing too, is half of it is just, it's not even losing to Joe Flacco 3 weeks ago. It's the fact that it's coming off the bye week, which for some reason has been like the biggest bugaboo under the Matt LaFleur era. And until he can prove otherwise, there's a lot of stuff with Matt LaFleur that I think we're all at the point now where there's enough data points that until he can prove otherwise, it's hard not to feel like this is something to be worried about every single year,
Yeah, and when you look at the Packers' record under Matt LaFleur coming out of a bye week, they are 4-3 post-bye record under Matt LaFleur. I will say 2 of those 3 losses came in his first 2 seasons of coaching, so you do have that. At least you would hope that there's some things that have been corrected. And that last loss came 2023 against, I believe it was the Broncos, coming out of the bye that year during Jordan Love's first year starting. So you would hope that this team now, with a few more years of experience with Matt LaFleur, understanding how operations need to be coming out the bye week, that things are going to be clean for them coming out of the bye week. But again, they got to prove it. They got to prove it. And I think this is a good prove it game for the Packers, for all that we've talked about so far, Dan, of like, man, feeling a little on edge here for a few different reasons, like the crash out that could happen if the Packers lose would be legendary. All that said, I do think the Packers win this game for a lot of different reasons, because when you look at the rosters just top to bottom, like the Packers are better, especially without Joe Burrow there. Like if Joe Burrow was there, it adds a different dynamic to that Bengals team, because I mean, what he did last year against another leaky offensive line, super impressive. What he was doing before he got hurt, impressive. But in this game here, I think it does start with Joe Flacco, in the sense of that Bengals offensive line, which has been beat up against the run. When they're trying to run the ball, the Bengals offensive line ain't getting much going. When they're trying to throw the ball, ain't much happening for them. Their pass protection has been poor. So this feels like a game that's set up to be a really, really big one for the Packers pass rush. And I'm curious to see how the interior offense or defensive line holds up for the Packers too, with the Wyatt injury. We know how big of a part that he's been for this team. I'm curious how often we see Lucas Van Ness kick inside too, especially if the Packers can get I was going to say the Browns because Joe Flacco, but the Bengals, get the Bengals, that other Cleveland team that we're actually playing today. If you can get them in situations where it's 3rd and long here and you can really tee off, like, I think those lineups there, I'm curious to see how often you see Lucas Van Ness kick inside for those situations where it's clearly a passing down. So like, let's go with the Jaguar package here where you're really throwing speed out and see how that can do it, because you're going to need a lot from everybody.
Yeah. And that's the thing is, I think Andy talked about this on the pregame show today, is we need to see a lot more from the rest of the pass rush that isn't named Micah Parsons.
Yeah.
We saw it big time the first 2 weeks. I think part of that pass rush came from Jeff Hafley's scheme. Mm-hmm. It was very interesting to see against the Browns and the Cowboys. It felt like we stopped doing everything that was working on the defensive side. And that means like the things that were working a lot was still scheming the blitz and the pressures the way Jeff Hafley had to do last year when they were running low on bodies, and they were getting Evan Williams like time down there, like near in like a nickel corner kind of role,
Mm-hmm.
like you should still be manufacturing those pressures even when all of your pass rushers are out there on the field, or when you've got the talent there. I would argue you almost do it more, because then it puts guys like Micah Parsons, Rashawn Gary, Edrin Cooper in places to win even easier. And like Micah Parsons can go win one-on-one pretty much every single time almost. Mm-hmm. But like, why not just go out there and scheme it every single time and have the play designed to go out and be successful every single time, and say, this play is designed for this person to go win. This play is designed for this person to go win, and go do that. I think that was part of why we saw a little bit of the slight regression from Cooper in that Cowboys game, is he fell back into like a defense that wasn't letting him go out and attack like he was last year when he had a lot of that success. So yeah, I agree with you. I want to see a lot of those guys pick it up. I'm interested to see how they go to it. I want to bring this in here from Helson. We're going to retire Flacco today, man. We don't wish an injury on anybody, but maybe after today, Joe Flacco says, I'm good. Like I've earned my pension at this point. I don't need this anymore.
you could, because again, like, this should be a day. You mentioned Rashawn Gary. This should be another game for Rashawn Gary to really tee off in this game, I would think. And Rashawn Gary comes to the game with 4.5 sacks on the season in 4 games. Leads the Packers. I believe he's 7th in the NFL for sacks. That number could change, of course, with the international game going on right now, plus what happened on Thursday night. But 2 of the sacks that Rashawn Gary has had so far this season were against the Browns and Joe Flacco in week 3. And now you're setting up for a situation where he's behind an even worse offensive line, which one might argue, how is that possible given how leaky the Browns was? But the other team in Ohio, it's pretty bad there as well. I think Micah Parsons, too, is a guy who, as you mentioned, he's going to get a lot of attention, right? Just like Trey on the other side is going to get a lot of attention. And for that, if Micah is the guy on the team who's getting the double teams, which we expect that he will be, is going to set a lot of guys up to have those one-on-ones, and they're going to have to win it. I mentioned like the loss of Wyatt, I think, can't be talked about enough, because prior to the game in Dallas, when he left, he was 2nd amongst interior defensive linemen in pressures, according to Pro Football Focus. And of course, we know PFF, you take their rankings, how you take their rankings, but he has 13 pressures, and apparently the rest of the offensive linemen have combined for 15. So Wyatt has 13. Everyone else has 15. Carl Brooks had 11 of those. And then you had Kobe Wooden with 2 and Stackhouse with 2 there. So like, you're going to need to see that come from guys in this game on the defensive line, because the Bengals offensive line struggles. They, like I said, they don't do anything really well. And they're also banged up. So this feels like a game for the Packers defensive line, for the pass rush, for everything to really get right.
Although they are getting the Bengals are getting some respite in the return of Lucas Patrick back to the offensive line, it seems like
Old
this
friend.
week. So
Old friend.
we know how well Lucas Patrick has worked out in every other spot that he's gone and played in. So yeah, I mean, I think really what it comes down to me for this defense was what happened in Dallas a one-off, or did Jeff Hafley's defense and this roster that's behind the front seven just get completely exposed and now the playbook is out on them, right? Because the whole idea was the cornerback group was like probably the biggest position of weakness with this team. Even with Nate Hobbs coming in, it's still everyone's still. It's the cornerback group is rough. What we saw in the first 2 weeks was this cornerback group can play really well when the front line and the front seven gets a lot of pressure and gets guys off their rhythm. What we saw in Dallas was basically an offensive game plan to negate that pass rush and put the game basically in the shoulders of the pass catchers versus the secondary, and say, we'll dink and dunk, we'll get yards, we'll find the little spots and go 5-10 yards a play or on a pass play or whatever, but we're not going to let Micah Parsons ruin this game. We're not going to let this defensive pass rush ruin this game.
Yeah.
And you kind of saw the real hole and how bad the secondary can be if you have to rely on them against the Cowboys. Now, the Cowboys offense much different than what the Bengals are going to be rolling out with Joe Flacco. So again, that's why I say, will today prove that the game plan is out on this defense, or was that just a one-off? Because if you're Zach Taylor, you've got Joe Flacco coming in, who doesn't have a lot of, has no history with T. Higgins or Jamar Chase.
And Jamar Chase didn't even practice this week because he's been sick. He is playing today, but they haven't gotten that time in practice.
Like, I just wonder, do you truncate this game plan to basically say we're gonna do a version of what the Cowboys did, dink and dunk, small things. We're not gonna let Joe Flacco sit back there and get his head knocked off by Micah Parsons, and just say, run these 5 outs, run 3-yard outs, run 5-yard slants. We'll figure it out from there, and just hope that the Bengals defense can hang on and stop the Packers, or that the Packers maybe beat themselves and put them in bad situations. So that's what I'm really looking forward to, is the answer to that question. Hopefully it'll help that this game is back at Lambeau. Packer fans, like we keep saying, it's been 3 weeks since we've gotten to see a Packers victory. It's been a long time since we got to see the Packers play in Lambeau. And personally for me, like to the Lambeau thing, Camille, I was kind of thinking about this after I was at the first week game against the Lions. I was like, if Lambeau can bring this kind of energy and dominance every single time at a home game, that kind of, for me, is exactly what you're hoping for. And if you say, like, okay, the Packers have now a dominant home field advantage again, the crowd is juiced up every single week, and the Packers play great at home, and let's say you win out at home, then all you have to do is basically say, okay, win half of your road games.
Yeah.
And you're in the playoffs, or you're probably competing for a division title at that point, Yeah. So it's not for nothing that this game is back at Lambeau to help out the team.
And I think that really should help. I mean, one of the things in the Browns game was pointed to was just like, hey, operations just weren't as clean here in the first road game of the season for the Packers. And in Dallas, a lot of things were cleaned up. I will say that it's just that the defense gave up 40 points, and not even a real 40 points, because we know 2 of those points came on the extra point that was blocked and returned, which set the course for the score to be what it was throughout the course of that game against Dallas. But being at home should be very helpful to the Green Bay Packers. We know they love feeding off that energy. And the Bengals are a team where if Joe Burrow was healthy, and they were not 2-3, I would think like, hey, you might see a few more Bengals fans in Lambeau because this is also one of those stadiums that teams just want to go to, or fans. You want to experience Lambeau. Even if you're not a Packers fans want to experience Lambeau because all you've heard as a football fan since growing up watching games is, oh, the mystique of Lambeau Field, Lambeau Field. You got to get to Lambeau. You have to get to Lambeau. So I do think opposing fans target that, but when the team isn't doing that hot, this is not one of those games where I'm expecting you to look in the audience like, man, there's a lot more Bengals fans than expected in this one. Like this one should be pretty Green Bay Packers heavy, very heavy for them in the audience as well. Let me ask you this, Dan. We kind of talked about the defensive line and how we think they should have a big day. Talked about Joe Flacco a little bit too. What else is something else outside of the fans, which you mentioned in Lambeau, that you're looking to in this game is like a key matchup that you're really focused on? Like, hey, if this goes the Packers' way, I feel real confident that they're going to come out with a dub in this situation.
I mean, I hate to be just like completely Captain Obvious, but it's the offensive line for the Packers, right?
Sometimes the obvious answer is the right answer, man.
Like, so it sounds like I don't think we've gotten the full inactives for the game yet today, because I think they've just come out with the inactives for the early games. So we probably won't see this who's playing for another 3 hours or so. But we do know that at least from the offensive line, Anthony Belton was ruled out for this week. It kind of sounds like Zach Tom is trending towards playing this week, which would be a huge, huge boost. I have no idea what Aaron Banks is going to be doing. It's really a bummer that like Aaron Banks was the premier free agent signing this year for the Packers, and he's played like half of a game. I mean, but even outside of just the injuries, like the guys who you expected to be the starters have been a little iffy as well. Elton Jenkins not looking super great. Sean Ryan, surprise of all surprises, honestly, because he felt like a rising star coming into this year. He's really struggled as the starting right guard. And I don't know if part of that is the injury situation, if Elton Jenkins at center is not what we expected and it's kind of throwing things off, but it's not great that this is where we're at with the offensive line, because it's clearly hampering the run game. Josh Jacobs is having one of his worst starts to a season this year. And the idea was that this year everything was supposed to be behind this offensive line and geared toward this running game, you know? So yeah, for me, it's gotta be the offensive line, especially with Trey Hendrickson coming in.
That part. I see down in the comments here mentioned, like, if the O-line looks like it has in previous games, what will it take to win today? And I think the weakest game for the offensive line so far was that game against Cleveland. I thought they did a better job against Dallas. But that Cleveland game is the one that stands out. And a large part of it is because they had a game record in Myles Garrett over there in Cleveland. Plus, the rest of our defensive line is no slouch. I think that the Browns defense gets overlooked a bit because the team hasn't been that great, but their defense is good. And I don't think that can Bo Melton play guard. I don't think Bo can do that one, Todd. But I think this is one of those games too where the Bengals defensive front, like you have Trey Hendrickson out there who is another game record, right? But I think the depth around Hendrickson isn't as deep in Cincinnati as it is with Cleveland, right? Especially given the fact that Stewart might not even be playing in this game. I think
it sounds like he's doubtful, so I would be surprised if he plays. Yeah,
same. So like he hasn't played since week 1, I believe it is. So that can be another break for the Packers offensive line of not having to focus on him. But we know that, well, I should say we know. Would not expect for the Packers to try to play against Trey straight up. Like that's not a recipe for success. You're going to have to show help there. You're going to have tight ends there. You're going to need your running backs to do a really good job too in pass protection and picking up extra guys if they come, picking up loose rushers. So I think it's going to be a team effort. But again, like it's not going to be an easy day in the office for Rasheed Walker if he goes. As we mentioned, he's listed as questionable in this game. Won't be an easy day for him there. And if he doesn't play, then like Do you move Morgan? Do you put Morgan out there at that left tackle spot and go over there? And I don't think Morgan's got many reps at left tackle thinking about it on the NFL level here. So
No.
it's one of those things where it's going to be difficult. But I think for the Packers, if they do find a situation where their offensive line is getting cooked, you got to move to more of the quick game and also try to use that run game and see if you can take advantage of their aggressiveness against them. But I would be surprised if the offensive line puts up another showing like they did in Cleveland. I expect better from them today, and they have to be better.
Yeah, I think really it's just play mistake-free offense.
Yeah.
You know, because if the offensive line plays poorly, it's already been shown over the last 4 games, Jordan Love is playing really damn good football.
Yeah.
Like I think I saw from Bill Huber this week, he wrote a really good article kind of citing just like how good he's been. And it's like, even when he's being pressured, or when he's got less time to throw, or what it's no, I'm sorry. It was when the Packers are in situations that you're expected to throw, right? So not just like first down, first and 10, or play action passes. Like, he's not living off of that stuff. Even in situations like 3rd and long, 2nd and long, when teams know you're probably going to be passing, Jordan Love is statistically one of the best passers in the game this year, which means the defenses know it's coming and they still can't stop it. No matter how Jordan Love is, no matter what situation he's in, he's playing really good football. And so I'm really hoping that the Packers and the offensive game plan today focuses around the strength of this team right now, which is Jordan Love throwing the ball. I love Josh Jacobs, and I love a team that can run the ball. And I understand Matt LaFleur's offensive mindset behind all of that, right? It's successful when it works. It hasn't been working very well this year. Quit trying to force it in situations where it doesn't need to be. Let's give Jordan Love full reign of this offense and just start throwing the ball around a little bit more. I want to. It's really clear that the big weapons on this team are not at running back anymore. Well,
where do you think the biggest weapon is? Are you pulling the Kraft card right now? Like it's Tucker Kraft.
I'm pulling just pass catchers in general.
Period.
Because now look at the way that this offense has been kind of operating. Jet sweeps to Matthew Golden, Savion Williams running wildcat formations. Like, they have so many weapons at pass catcher, wide receiver, and tight end that they should almost that should force their hand almost to be throwing the ball more, because you have so much more talent at these positions. Not to take away from what Josh Jacobs brings to this team, but it's not working right now. So it's weird. Like, let's establish the pass to set up the run for Josh Jacobs at this point.
So I'm feeling what you're putting down to a certain extent, because I do think situationally there are times where they kind of need to let Love throw. Like, I'm tired of like it feeling calculated. Well, okay, it's first down. We know about to run the ball here. Like, let's air it out some. Right. Let's air it out. But I think that this is a game against the Bengals here where Josh Jacobs can get back on track. Because when you look at the numbers, like, Jacobs is 11th with 66.5 yards per game, but he's only averaging 3.3 yards per carry. And for his career, he's a 4.2 yard guy. Like, you gotta give, like, part of it's been the offensive line. And I see All Good in the comments here mention that too. Our O-line is decimated, really being overlooked. We need Tom back. And I could not agree with that more. But this is one of those games against a Bengals defense that has been god awful against the run. I mean, the defense has been bad, just period. So, like, you should be able to attack them wherever you want to. But given how the run game has been struggling, this feels like one of those ones where you can try to get right. Now, the Bengals run defense is slightly better than their pass defense. And another former friend, we got TJ Slayton over there in the middle of that defensive line holding it down, but they give up so much, period. It just feels like one of those games where Josh Jacobs can get on target, and then that can continue to open up the pass game. More traditional instead of your suggestion of, hey, let's throw the ball to get the run game going, which they could work in this game too, because again, you can just attack the Bengals on so many different levels. But if you can get them going on the ground this week and then kind of add on to that as well, like it could be beautiful. Because even this year, to your point about wanting to see more from Jordan Love, wanting Jordan Love to throw the ball more, like he hasn't been asked to really carry the offense. He's only 26 in attempts, but he's 10th in completion percentage. He's 4th in yards per attempt. He's thrown 8 touchdowns so far this season, 1 interception, and of course the fumble, as we know, happened in Dallas. But he's been good this year. This feels like a game that can get right for the run game. But I do hear you on like, hey, we're seeing that Jordan Love is really producing this year. Let's get him some more situations where he can produce. And I think, again, this is why the game today is like, it should be an offensive show for the Packers, because you can attack this Bengals defense in so many different areas.
Yeah. I wonder how much that stat of the Bengals are slightly better at the run game than they are the pass game is because everyone knows they can just throw the ball over this defense. Like, why run the ball if their pass defense is that, like, it's bad. It's definitely not good. And here's the thing too. I think there is a great way to get Josh Jacobs and the running backs involved, and that's with screens. It's with little out routes. It's with things set up for them to spread this defense out a little bit more. Give them something else to think about. Give them something else to think about that isn't all of these motions on running plays. I think that's the thing I'm like the most sick of kind of seeing at this point is it's obvious. The offensive line not gelling super well, or they're having trouble with assignments or whatever it is. Like it's not going great. Can we stop doing all of these different things where, it's a snap and it's a fake here and it's a spin around and someone else takes it and goes off this way to the left and they've got like blockers crisscrossing to like set up all this misdirection. It's like, if the offensive line can't pass protect, they can't. I don't expect them to be able to get off their blocks and go do that. If we're gonna run the ball, let's just bully ball it and bring in, bring in the Sims as a tight end or as a fullback or something, and have him
and really run it
and just run have your offensive line simplified and just say, go out and see that guy. That's who you punch. Go punch that guy. You go punch that guy and just end it. Like no more loosey-goosing around. Here is a great way to transition into something I'd like to bring up. True North says the Packers play well on Thanksgiving, and tomorrow is Canadian Thanksgiving.
Okay.
So expecting the Packers to win big today. Camille, I brought this up on our show on Wednesday or on Thursday on Cheesehead TV, and I promised to bring a graphic in here for us.
Oh, we got the graphic.
This is hard, stone cold research.
Watch out, Pablo Torre.
The Packers are 11-4 in games post a Taylor Swift album released. So history on our side, like True North says, Thanksgiving games, great. Packers games post a Taylor Swift album, even better. Average margin of victory, almost 16 points. The one thing to mention, though, to keep an eye on, the Packers currently on a 2-album losing streak. Back in 2023, that was a home game against the Vikings. I had to go back and remember what game that was. I think that was that terrible game where it was like super windy at Lambeau Field, and they like refused to have Jordan Love throw the ball at
Yes.
all. They lost once the game after Taylor's version of 1989 was released. And then most recently, the Tortured Poets Department was released in the off season of 2024. And that first game against the Eagles in Brazil doesn't go the Packers' way. So, but history overall on the side of the Packers. So hopefully we can get the Taylor Swift mojo combined. It's like a weather report. We've got a heavy front of Taylor Swift mojo combined with the Canadian Thanksgiving hot pocket over here, and it's going to combine into a perfect storm at Lambeau Field. So
that I said this when you mentioned it on the Head of a Pack earlier this week of like this Taylor Swift stat where I'm like, where else are you gonna get this information from? Like, where else? Shout out to Dan for digging through the archives here and figuring out the Packers record post Taylor Swift albums. Now, I don't know if the quality of the album has any impact on that because from everything I've heard, reviews have not been great for the latest Taylor Swift album. But
it's been I've heard mixed reviews. I enjoy it. It's not.
Are you a Swiftie, Dan?
I am not like I'm on the fringes of Swiftie culture. Like I enjoy her music to an extent. I'm not somebody that's rewatching the New Heights episode looking for 5 different Easter eggs that no one else has found or anything. But I recognize the cultural impact it has on the country and our Green Bay Packers. Also 5-1 at home. So a big home field advantage post Swift album release. So there you go.
Let me ask you this, Dan, because I've been mentioning this feels like a get right situation for the Packers to me. It feels like a get right situation.
Mm-hmm.
Another area where I'm hoping to see the Packers can possibly get right is the turnover battle. Because
big time.
Last year, this Packers offense was just intercepting the ball all over the place. And this year, the defensive unit it hasn't gotten the opportunities that it had last year. Like so far this season, the Packers have only forced 2 turnovers, and those were 2 sole interceptions, no forced fumbles. We know last year, like they forced 31 takeaway. Like this Packers defense, we know that turnovers and takeaways can come in bunches. And I'm hoping that this can be like that first game to kind of get them in the motion, because coming to this game with 2 takeaways for the Packers defense, only one other NFL team had fewer takeaways than the Green Bay Packers, and that was the New York Jets. And I saw they recovered a fumble earlier in the game before we had to go. So they're getting close to where the Packers are now. And this feels like a game again. Poor offensive line for the Bengals. Pass rush should be able to feast. You should be able to put Joe Flacco in situations where turnovers can be in play. And the other side of that is like, hey, on the flip side, can the Packers offensive line protect Jordan Love enough to make sure he has enough time to process? And can he make sure that he's making the right decisions too? Because mentioned, Jordan Love's had like 11 interceptions the last few years. This year, only one of them things so far. So like, and again, it came at a really, really bad time. Really bad time. Ooh, Don just said the final.
I was about to go look at it. The Broncos pulled it off. This is I don't know if anyone else is part of the Sickos Committee for college football. This is the most Sickos Committee type NFL game. The Jets coming out here, kicking 3 field goals and getting a safety off of a holding penalty in the end zone. They ran a fake punt. I mean, this is what London football should.
Truly.
A 13-11 game between the Broncos and Jets.
And really quick, Fishy thinks that where's Andy? He's at the game. So he said
he's probably cracking a high noon at a tailgate or something now. So
not in the press box, not getting ready for work. He's probably in the lots. But no, yeah, he's at the game. So he let us have the keys this week to the pre-show. But I think I don't think he's doing post live either, but he'll be back very, very soon on the channel.
Yeah. We don't worry. We have not usurped Andy.
Yeah, we haven't gone rogue and taken things over from Andy or anything like that.
I wanted the turnover thing. Yeah, I think last year the turnovers a little inflated. The number a little inflated. Like that defense last year really lived off of turnovers, and I think they play a little. I think they kind of, I guess, outkicked their coverage a little bit in terms of production. Like that's usually not how defenses operate, right? Or it's not how good defenses like operate, is living off of turnovers, which is what that Packers defense last year did, was live off of the Xavier McKinney interceptions. That's not usually sustainable. So it doesn't surprise me that the turnover number is coming down. But at the same time, like you said, you still have to be winning the turnover battle.
Yeah.
And the offense is playing at a level really well. Like they're not the offense for the Packers not turning the ball over, which is helping that. But it's over. Like we've already seen what happens when the offense struggles or puts themselves in bad situations, a la Cleveland.
Mm-hmm.
Tons of penalties, 2 turnovers. You lose the turnover game. If your offense finds themselves in that situation, the defense by itself can pick up this team. We already saw it again in Cleveland, but they need to be also giving this offense more opportunities, second chances, a wider air for margin than what they've currently been playing with. The defense is playing lights out, but you can only count on punts and stops like that for so long. At a certain point, you have to go and take the ball away to be truly dominant.
You do. And the Bengals have taken the ball away a little bit here. I mean, just last week we saw Trey Hendrickson have a strip sack on Jared Goff, and it was in Bengals territory. And as mentioned, we saw the same thing happen to Love in Dallas. So again, Love has to protect the football, avoid making mistakes. And the 2 turnovers that Love has himself, the interception and the forced fumble, the interception, again, just the timing in the situation was terrible. Like you can't give bad teams short fields. You have to make them work for it. But over the last 3 weeks for the Bengals, again, without Joe Burrow, they have lost the turnover battle 8-2. And that does include when they had the 5 turnover game in Minnesota. Like forcing Joe Flacco in a turnover is going to be a big thing, I think, for this Packers defense, because when you look at what they've done before, like the Bengals offense has already turned the ball over 9 times this season. 8 of those turnovers were Jake Browning interceptions. And we know part of why they went to Joe Flacco. They wanted someone they could trust a little bit more. But Joe Flacco has thrown 6 interceptions himself. So it's a situation, again, where it feels like it can be a get-right game for the defense in the sense of like, hey, let's get some takeovers, because if it's a situation where the Packers lose the turnover battle here, it can be a recipe for an upset in Lambeau, and we don't want to see that.
Yeah, we've already seen what everyone is planning on doing. If everyone's detailing their crash out plans like they're prepping for the end of the world. If somehow the Bengals come in and win, I guess here's a question for you and for the chat, I guess too, is do the Packers need to come out and win this game convincingly to feel good about this game, or can you come out here and basically do what the Lions did last week, where you come out and you take the lead early and maybe you give it up and it becomes a little bit closer down the end, or it says a 10-point game most of the time and your defense is dominating. Does it have to be a blowout win, or will you take a well-executed game that just so happens the Bengals find ways to scratch some points across and keep it from being a total blowout?
I think if it's a situation like the Lions-Bengals game where the final score looks a little bit closer because the Bengals were able to run it up a bit in the fourth quarter, I'm cool with, like, I can take that. That's fine. That happens in the course of a game, especially when a team is behind the sticks. They keep just trying to throw it, and sometimes things happen. That's fine. If it's one of those games, and let's be very clear, the Bengals and the Packers have had some really, really weird games over the last 5 matchups, I would say, between these two squads. So like some weird things can happen. Interconference games, we know. But like, I think for confidence level reasons, you want this to be a game where the Packers handedly look better than the Bengals, just given where both of these teams are right now. And especially with a brand new quarterback joining the team on Tuesday, hasn't gotten a chance to practice with the star wide receiver because Jamar Chase has been out with an illness. I did see he's expected to be available for this game. So, like, yeah, you want it to be decisive, but like true North Packers fan just said, after the last 2 games, I will take anything. I just want to win. I
Right.
want a win first and foremost. Like, I will feel better going forward and feel good for this whole coming week if it's a blowout. So you can be like, yeah, you know, it is what it is. The Packers did what they were supposed to do. But ultimately, I want to win. And especially since this Packers game happens, is the first NFC North game of the weekend. Vikings are on their bye. You have the Lions and Chiefs for Sunday Night Football, and then you have the Bears and Commanders for Monday Night Football. So it would feel really good once Sunday Night Football starts to be like, wow, the Packers had a dominant, commanding win. Feels like they're getting back on track. But ultimately, we need the win. We need the dub in the column to go up. But how about you?
I'm the same way. Get the win and move on to the next week. You know, leave it to the pundits and the fans and whoever else to dissect. Was this a good enough win? Did we execute everything and do everything to win? Like, that's the stuff I can't stand. Is like, if it's a situation like the Lions last week, it's like there's situational football.
Mm-hmm.
You're not just pedal to the metal 0 to 100 every single play. If you're up big, you change schemes, you change things around. Like, things happen. The other team gets paid to go out and win the game as well. You know, like, they don't just roll over because they're the Bengals and they're expected to lose. So yeah, anytime you go out and win an NFL game, it should be rewarded and should be celebrated. Like, I remember somebody saying, I was listening to a movie podcast, like, people that aren't in the movie industry don't realize how much of a small miracle it is just to make like a single, like, even independent film, like everything that goes into it, everything that goes on. And then people just sit back and they're like, that movie sucked. And you're like, do you not know like what all went into making this movie? It's the same thing with like a Packers win or like any NFL game. It's like the practices, the game film, everything it takes to go out and then just hopefully the ball bounces your way right for 60 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And people will sit back there and be like, yeah, well, but you didn't cover the spread. And it's like, it's somewhat of a small miracle to go out and win an NFL game. So, and I think you brought up a good point too. The Packers being the first NFC North team to play this week, you've got to keep the pressure on.
Yes.
At this point, because the Lions, they could easily go into Kansas City, beat the Chiefs, and be 5-1. And you cannot start Sunday Night Football being 2-1, or God help us 2-1-2. Dear
that
Lord,
would be the crash out of all crash outs, Dan. Another tie.
We're just gonna tie our way straight to the playoffs. Yeah, like, it just is. You just got to get the win to keep the pressure on the Lions, to keep the pressure on everybody else in the NFC North and the rest of the NFC at this point now, because everyone seems to have a bit of a flaw. Everyone in the NFC has had a real major trip up in some way. The Eagles look very beatable at this point. The Bucks, I think you can hang with them. The Rams are an older team. You've already beaten the Lions handily. So you can go out and compete with anybody, but you got to give yourself the chance to do that at the end of the season. So you got to win the game. So
you do.
Yeah. And here's something else to mention before we kind of start to wrap up. The Packers did sign a kicker to the active roster for the game. Lucas Havarisk. I did not.
I think it is Havarisk.
Havarisk. Why are we signing all these kickers that just have like some of the weird, like Havarisk and what was the rookie from Tennessee?
You're from Anders, are you?
No, the guy from Tennessee last year that played for like 2-3 games before he got Narvison.
Oh, Narvison, the Narv dog.
The Narv dog. Like,
yeah.
I want to go back to Mason Crosby name where it's just like name. You know, like kickers sometimes have these weird, like have a risk sounds like risky. You have they have Chris Blewett, that's a
Yes.
kicker. Tyler Loop, like just give me a kicker that doesn't sound like it's been generated by the Madden create a player kind of thing.
But you know what though? I think
Yeah.
the kicker point is interesting because Brandon McManus felt very confident in his ability to go today. Again, we'll know 90 minutes before kickoff, which is about 2-ish o'clock Central Time, of what the official injury report is going to look like. But he was very confident of like, no, I'm playing. Matt needs to check his thesaurus about major concern, woo, woo, woo. And Matt LaFleur came back like, listen, our kicker has an injury to his kicking leg. Like, yes, it's going to be a concern, regardless of how comfortable he feels playing through I believe it's the quad injury there.
Mm-hmm.
But this is one of those games here for the Packers. I feel like kind of prediction time now as we wrap up. Give the folks enough time to get their snacks and beverages together for the 12 o'clock slate of games here. We've talked all the different aspects. Special teams. I saw someone else mention it. All good. Wild card in this game. But the Packers offense has a matchup advantage over the Bengals defense. The Packers defense has an advantage over the Bengals offense here. Special teams, that wild card there. But ultimately, this is a game I feel like the Packers should win. Regardless if Chase is playing. I know All Good said that he's playing through the illness. He can be a game changer. And especially if the Packers are missing tackles, because you can get the ball to the Chase a couple yards, give him some space, let him run. If you're not sure with your tackles, like he can make you regret that very, very quickly. T. Higgins, we know, is a guy. 50-50 balls, that's all T. Like he loves them. I don't even think the Bengals look at them at 50-50 balls. Them and just give T a shot and see what he can do with it. All that said, coming to predictions. I mentioned this on Ahead of the Pack that we do on Cheesehead TV as well, but the Bengals over the last 4 weeks, they have allowed 37 points, 28 points, 48 points, 27 points. Meanwhile, the Green Bay Packers have scored 27 or more in 3 of their 4 games. Of course, that 40-point game we just saw against Dallas before the bye week. The Bengals did start 2-0. But they haven't won a game since September 14th. With that being said, they have lost the 3 games that they have lost by a combined score of 113-37. They have lost their last 3 games by a combined score. I'm going to say it again. 113-37. Okay. I say all that to say I am predicting a Packers win in this one. I think that the Packers, they should do their thing. I'm not sure if they cover the 14.5-point spread.
Yeah,
that's a big spread to try to cover in the NFL. But this is a game I feel like the Packers should win handily, even if it comes down to a situation like it was with the Lions and Bengals last week, where in the 4th quarter, it looks a little closer than what the game flow actually determined. But I think it's a Packers win today.
I mean, I agree. I think it should definitely be a Packers win. I think it just everything historical around this matchup, the bye week, the way the team has been playing, like it just screams that it's going to be a closer game than people want it to be. I think though, if this team follows the mantra that Micah Parsons set out in the bye week, be phenomenal or be forgotten, I think is what he said. That shouldn't just apply to the defense, should apply to everybody. And I think it should start with Matt LaFleur. Be phenomenal or be forgotten. It's time for Matt LaFleur to really crank this offense up to another level. And not just the offense, but how about a killer instinct with this team? This is a game that should be what the Cowboys game should have been, where you go up early by 14 points and you turn the screw. You keep turning the screw and you don't let up till it's zeros on the clock, right? I want to see that. I'm hoping to see that. And I think the Packers, as long as they play a clean game from a penalty standpoint, from turnover standpoint, they should win this game. They should easily win this game. Being back at home against a quarterback like Joe Flacco, this should be a win for the Packers. So Camille and I get to talk about this team in about like 8 hours from now, 7 hours from now, because Camille and myself will be joined with Monty Moore on the audio side of the Pack-A-Day podcast for tomorrow's post-game recap. So hope that you catch us over there. Andy, I'm sure will be back. Well, he'll be back here tomorrow for the YouTube channel as well. But I'm sure he'll be back next week for the live streams and everything else. So thank you all for tuning in, even though Andy is out, doing probably doing like some kind of keg stand or something, smashing some cheese curds at Stadium View before the game. Whatever I usually do before a Packer home game, I'm sure Andy's doing the same thing. So thank you everyone for joining with us. Camille, if people want to find you or follow you like during the game or anything, where can they do that?
Yeah, for sure. So I'll also be back right after the game on the YouTube side of things for Pack-A-Day. I'm here after every game with a quick little instant reaction, maybe 5 to 8 minutes, somewhere in that. So catch that after every Packers game here on the Pack-A-Day podcast. Myself and Dan, as well as Monty Moore, also do Ahead of the Pack on Cheesehead TV. Episode comes out every Thursday, so make sure you guys check that out. Dan also mentioned we're the Monday audio crew for Pack-A-Day podcast. So if you don't want to see our faces, but just hear our thoughts, you can check us out over there as well. And then personally, I'm also still doing my NBA coverage, Locked On Bucks, 5 days a week, covering everything Milwaukee Bucks. So I got a really busy day today because the Bucks have a preseason game at 6:00 today as well. The debut of Giannis so far this preseason. So that should be fun. And then Technical Foul podcast every Wednesday. We cover NFL, NBA, and pro wrestling for those of you who are fans of that sweet science as well. And then socials at Camille Monet, CamilleMonae. Pretty much any social media website where I'm at, that's going to be the handle.
Perfect. I'm mostly on Blue Sky at Daniel the Manos, where you can find me, especially like during the game live. I think they call it skeeting over there. I don't care. I'm just going to call it tweeting. It's like Kleenex at this point. Just live messaging and everything, live reactions during the game. So if you want to follow me over there, that's a lot of fun. Everything that Camille said that we do the rest of the week, I'm also on Wednesdays on Lombardi's Bar on our YouTube channel over there with Jimmy Christensen and Todd Varney, 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central. Every Wednesday night we go live over there and have a lot of fun talking about Packers and everything as well. So enjoy the game, everybody. I think a couple of minutes away from the 1 o'clock or the noon kickoffs here. So enjoy the rest of your NFL Sunday. Hopefully the Packers put a nice little bow on it for us. And until next time, everyone, go Pack, go.
Go Pack, go.